Ross?
We're getting the map. You want a chair?
I have a chair. Come in.
You have a chair coming? By itself. Okay, who needs the map? Do you want the map? Full house, Geshe.
Yeah.
There's one here as well. Do you want to come here? When doorways and things locked.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good morning, everybody here and people online. Yeah, we're going to talk about. Yeah, I don't know. About that, maybe. Yeah. So yeah, in Buddhism, first of all, we see death as quite a part of life. So we're not really that much, how say, scared about it. I should say. But so yeah, we're going to talk about those things, and it's mainly, I think, over quite a secular nature. Quite a few of you might be quite new to Buddhism, so the talk will be secular aspects. And as there are also people who are already in Buddhism for some time, in the beginning we do a few prayers, and sometimes you see people doing prostrations and things like that. But yeah, if you're quite new to Buddhism, then don't worry about that. That's just a part of the tradition, you could say, right? Yeah, so the talks will be mainly in accordance with, just what the reality is, so like kind of a secular nature. And there are a few Buddhist aspects to it, so then you just take out what you like to take out, and you leave out what you like to leave out, right? We in Buddhism are very open, and we like to share the knowledge with everybody, and people don't have to accept. Yeah, that's very important for those who are quite new to do things. That in Buddhism we even say, don't believe what has been said, examine it. Don't straight away think, oh, the Buddha knew because he's an enlightened being, or Namdak studied for so many years, he should know, Don't think like that, right? Just examine the things. That's always very important in Buddhism. Yeah, so we go over a few aspects of death and dying, and why it's important to think about it, and how it motivates us, and what happens when we die, right? So to prepare for that event that is coming for sure. And yeah, so we're going to talk about also the death process, right? What happens actually when we die? What do people see, or what can you see if a person is dying, or when you're dying yourself? Yeah, so there's a full day of death and dying, you should say. Yeah. So yeah, before we start, because there's quite a few people who are already in the Buddhist tradition, so before we start, we do a few prayers together. If you're completely new to it and you don't understand, then just look into space, or just have, because the prayers are just meant to generate positive intentions. That's the real meaning behind it. And then there's a praise to the Buddha, not just to venerate the Buddha or something like that, but to admire the qualities of love and kindness, compassion and wisdom. Yeah, the qualities we also like to acquire. So that's why we do those prayers. And then there's also a prayer to one of the first teachings of the Buddha, which talks about ultimate reality, which is a very interesting topic, but not the topic of this weekend. And then we do also an overview of what we call the Lam Rim meditations, or the stages of the path to enlightenment. Yeah, so that's kind of a few prayers we do. If you feel a bit kind of too much for that, then just look in the other direction, or keep your mind busy with something else, or just listen. Right? Yeah, only takes 10-15 minutes or so, and then we go into the material of this weekend. Yeah. So before we start, it's always essential to Buddhist or non-Buddhist, essential to generate a good motivation or a good intention, so to say, for the day or for the session. So there we put always a lot of emphasis on that, and let's do that here also. So think that we're going to attend this workshop today, or this the classes of today, for a particular purpose, right? And what is the purpose? To take more value out of our lives, you could say, or make our life more meaningful. Yeah, and that's for the benefit of generating more love and kindness, compassion, wisdom. Yeah, to have more sustainable happiness for yourself, yeah, for those who are more secular inclined, and then try to share that experience with others to also achieve more sustainable happiness. That's kind of a secular motivation you could have. And for those who are more Buddhist inclined, and you can think about understanding death and impermanence in order to take the essence out of this precious human rebirth for the purpose of achieving enlightenment, yeah, for the benefit of all mortal sentient beings, you know. So think in either of those ways to generate the motivation for yourself, yeah. And then those who consider themselves as Buddhists, they can imagine in front is Sakyamuni Buddha, surrounded by the masters of India, Tibet, and the other Buddhist traditions, and surrounding yourself countless beings undergoing the various types of mental and physical sufferings, and think you want to do something about it. And then you imagine you lead them in the prayers, and then you lead them to generating more love and kindness, compassion, and wisdom in their minds all the way up to enlightenment, where we recite the prayers together. Yeah.
Page 73 in the Golden Book. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Siddhartha, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Siddhartha, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Siddhartha, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies, formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, famed blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme science, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Saviour having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you the one gone to thusness I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dhamma that pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you the sublime community intending virtue I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly, this is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, the flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditions, things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the 4 faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. I prostrate to the Arya Triple Jam. Thus did I hear at one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on massive Vulture's mountain near Rajgir, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the endpoint of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the 3 times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated, even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharavatiputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised at spoken by the Bhagavan. To the gathering of the Kinis in the 3 chakras who abide in the holy yoga of using space, by our powers of clairvoyance and magical emanation, look after practitioners like a mother her child. Tayata gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisoha. By the teachings of the 3 supreme jewels, possessing the power of truth, may inner and outer hindrances be transformed, may they be dispelled, may they be pacified. May all negative forces opposed to Dharma be completely pacified. May the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified. May we be separated from problems and harmful conditions to Dharma. May all enjoyments be in accord with the Dharma. And may there be auspiciousness and perfect happiness here, right now. The foundation of all good qualities is the kind and perfect pure Guru. Correct devotion to the Guru is the root of the path. Page 93. Page 93 if you want. The foundation of all good qualities is the kind and perfect pure Guru. Correct devotion to the Guru is the root of the path. By clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely upon the Guru with great respect. Please bless me to rely upon the Guru with great respect. Understanding that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once is greatly meaningful and is difficult to find again. Please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly day and night takes its essence. Please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly day and night takes its essence. This life is impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. Finding firm and definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be careful to abandon even the slightest negativities and accomplish all virtuous deeds. Please bless me always to be careful to abandon even the slightest negativities and accomplish all virtuous deeds. Seeking samsaric pleasures is the door to all suffering. They are uncertain and cannot be relied upon. Recognizing these shortcomings, please bless me to generate the strong wish for the bliss of liberation. Please bless me to generate the strong wish for the bliss of liberation. Led by this pure thought, mindfulness, alertness, and great caution arise. The root of the teachings is keeping the Pratimoksha vows. Please bless me to accomplish this essential practice. Please bless me to accomplish this essential practice. Just as I have fallen into the sea of samsara, so have all mother migratory beings. Please bless me to see this training supreme bodhicitta and bear the responsibility of freeing migratory beings. Please bless me to see this training supreme bodhicitta and bear the responsibility of freeing migratory beings. Even if I develop only bodhicitta, but I don't practice the 3 types of morality, I will not achieve enlightenment. With my clear recognition of this, please bless me to practice the bodhisattva vows with great energy. Please bless me to practice the bodhisattva vows with great energy. Once I have pacified distractions, wrong objects, and correctly analyzed the meaning of reality, please bless me to generate quickly within my mind stream the unified path of calm abiding and special insight. Please bless me to generate quickly within my mind stream the unified path of calm abiding and special insight. Having become a pure vessel by training in the general path, please bless me to enter the holy gateway of the fortunate ones, the supreme Vajra vehicle. Please bless me to enter the holy gateway of the fortunate ones, the supreme Vajra vehicle. At that time, the basis of accomplishing the 2 attainments is keeping pure vows and samaya. As I become firmly convinced of this, please bless me to protect these vows and pledges like my life. Please bless me to protect these vows and pledges like my life. Then, having realized the importance of the 2 stages, the essence of the Vajrayana, by practicing with great energy, never giving up the 4 sessions, please bless me to realize the teachings of the Holy Guru. Please bless me to realize the teachings of the Holy Guru. Like that, may the Gurus who show the noble path and the spiritual friends who practice it have long lives. Please bless me to pass completely all outer and inner hindrances. Please bless me to pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. In all my lives, never separated from perfect Gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma by completing the qualities of the stages and paths. May I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. May I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Sajipaki Jukshin Meto Tramli Rablinji Nidegen Padi Sangye Jindu Mikte Uwai Drokunam Dachingla Chubarsho Idam Guru Ratnamandala Kamiliyataya Sangye Chodam Sungye Chonam La Janjo Baru Dani Gyamsuji Dagi Chushin Gibbe Sonamgi Rola Benji Sangye Dubasho Sangye Chodam Sungye Chonam La Janjo Baru Dani Gyamsuji Dagi Chushin Gibbe Sonamgi Rola Benji Sangye Dubasho Sangye Chodam Sungye Chonam La Janjo Baru Dani Gyamsuji Dagi Chushin Gibbe Sonamgi Rola Benji Sangye Drupasho Chutunto Gangi Dusin is a bit Tawatan Chiponchi, Kutam Della Chatzel. Yeah, so that. So first, we always start a tradition in Buddhism. We start with a quote. So I start with 2 quotes, one from the Buddha and one from a scientist. Yeah, why not? So the Buddha said in the Sutra on the 10 Grounds, that old age and death are produced by the condition of birth. It's very interesting, right? That old age and death, they come into existence. And why? Because there's birth. Yeah, because we're born, then we know. As we're born, we know that our future, if you like it or not, our future is old age and death. That's reality, right? You cannot escape that reality. As soon as you're born, you know that is in front of yourself, right? Yeah. But there's nothing to fear about, because that's reality. And Carlo Rovelli, one physicist in the field of particular quantum gravity, he wrote many books and lessons on physics, and one of his books on time, he says, why should you fear? Oh no, he says, fear for death is a fault in evolution. Why would you fear something that's a reality? It's very interesting, right? So why would you fear something that's a reality? If
something is a reality and you have fear for that, that's not very constructive, because you're going to meet that reality, right? Yeah, so to fear reality is just not very wise, you know. And you see people who don't like to think about these aspects, then when it happens to them or in their family or among their friends, then it's difficult to deal with it, because they didn't prepare their mind for the reality. Yeah, so Carlo Rovelli is one of my favorite scientists, by the way, from the point of view of ultimate reality. What he describes and what we see in philosophical texts is very similar. Yeah. So there's no point in fearing death. That's one thing, right? And if you look into the research of the near-death experience, there are people who have experienced death and then coming back to life, right? There's quite some evidence and research being done regarding the near-death experience. Yeah, very scientifically, empirical, examined research. There's a lot available. So what happens at the time of death, that people who have experienced that in the near-death experience, when they can talk about it, because that's a big issue. If you cannot talk about it, then it carries this kind of burden for yourself, right? But if you can talk about that experience with others, then the majority of the people who have experienced a near death, or actually were dead and came back to life in a cardiac arrest, for example, this cardiac arrest, and then within 10 to 20 seconds, oxygen flow to the brain stops and the person is clinically dead, right? According to medical science. But then if they're, doing some CPR and the person comes back to life, then they can talk about their experience. Yeah, there's quite a few people who have great details of that period, And then the majority is not afraid of death anymore, because they know they die, not always, but there's an aspect of the death process we're going to talk about as well, when there's a very blissful mind, and you see a lot of light and it's very peaceful. That's a temporary thing, but that's a part of it, So then they experience that and they come back to life, and then sometimes they're disappointed because they had this kind of nice experience and then they're stuck in this body again. Because that's very interesting, and that's why people who have experienced that and came back to life, they don't really fear it anymore, because they know it's not really something to be afraid of. Yeah. So that's very interesting science. We come to that also, the near-death experience, very interesting science. Yeah. But just from an ordinary day-to-day perspective, if you have issues in life and you have to face them, but you want to escape those issues, then it's very difficult to face them, right? That's very true. If it's a sickness, if it's old age, that's one of the great masters in the tradition of Nalanda, or the Sanskrit tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, or Buddhism in general, I should say. Shantideva, he said, if you have a problem and you can solve that problem, then you should solve it and not worry about it. Right? If you have a problem and an issue in life and you can solve that problem, then you should solve it. Why worrying about it too much? Just do something about it, right? If you have a problem and you cannot solve it, then also you shouldn't worry about it, because you cannot solve it anyway, right? It's very simple advice. It's not easy to put into practice, but it makes sense, right? Like old age and death, you cannot prevent that from happening. So there's no point in worrying about it, right? That we all know, most of you know better than I do, that, when you get older, the hairline, now I'm shaved so you can see, but it's withdrawing, right? It used to be here and the hair is thinner also. That happens, and we're getting gray hair, and the first gray hair, ooh, but then before you know, there's too many, so you cannot worry about it anymore, right? So that means that kind of aspect of decay, as we call it, that's an aspect of our life. So why should we worry about it if we cannot stop it anyway? And some people, they really want to stop it with creams or shampoos or or pills, or people just want to, there's people who try to live as long as possible, but then don't think about the value of life. It's better to think about the value of life rather than just have a long life, right? If you have a long life and it's miserable, then better to have a shorter life, and there's more kind of constructive aspects in your life, right? Yeah. But yeah, many people, and why is it so? Because we all grasp at permanence. We try to hold on to things. If you hold on to things that do not stay, it's not wise, right? If you try to hold on to things that constantly change, it's going to create a problem. Yeah. So that's same with old age and death. That, you know, in our communities, because in the Buddhist kind of communities, and the community where I lived for more than 2 decades in South India, in the Tibetan community, in particular in a monastic environment, we joke about these things all the time. You know, that we studied for about 20 years in a kind of academic setting. You know, so you with students, with your classmates, and you see them aging over 20 years. That's happening, right? 20 years is quite a long period of time. And then at a certain, when we 3/4 in the program, then we measure the hairline, you know, with 1 finger, 2 fingers, or 3 fingers. Yeah, so 3 fingers is considered as bald. So it's very interesting. So people don't really worrying about it too much. You know, that's a reality that's going to happen. That's exactly what Shantideva was saying. If you have issues in life and you cannot solve it, then you shouldn't worry about it, right? That's very clear. So that's Shantideva, very clear advice. Yeah. So yeah, it is beyond our control. But if we grasp to permanence, and we like to hold on to not getting gray, and we like to hold on to try to be young, you know, then that's not very wise, because that's not going to happen, right? Yeah. So the grasping to permanence is very strong in us. Yeah. When there's a person dying all of a sudden, then people just can't believe it happened. And you see that sometimes on the news when there's a famous pop star. Just recently there was one in the US, I think, and he fell or jumped out of a window or something like that. And then most of his fans said, "Oh, it feels very strange." Right? And that's true. When a person dies, it feels very strange. Why does it feel strange? Because you always think that that person will be with you, and you always think you're not going to die, or this person is not going to die. Yeah? So that holding on to permanence is creating problems. Because if you hold on to something that is not in accordance with reality, then reality is there, right? So you have to face reality. Yeah? Another example, my own mother, and she knows I use her a lot in talks, so she doesn't mind. Because mostly I talk about quite positive aspects of my mother's life. Yeah. So my mother, I don't think she says I'm a Buddhist. I don't think she will say that. But her son, you know, walks around in a particular dress and then is a monk. So, and she knows I'm not completely stupid, you know. So that means that she thought, why is Namdak changing his life like this, right? When I just started, because I started hydrology and things went quite well in the last few years of the studies and things like that. So he thought, oh, why is he doing this? So he started reading because he wants to know, right? In the early days, Buddhism was not that well known as in the current time. And then once I invited my parents to the Buddhist Centre, and then they met the teacher there and the people, and they say, oh, just normal people. Because for them was a bit kind of, where is he in a sect or something, you know? In those days was quite, yeah. So then she thought, okay, normal people. And then she still saw that I didn't become completely crazy. So she thought, oh, there must be some reason for it. So she started reading, you know. And then also a topic called Lam Rim, which is kind of a mind training text, and text on the stages, and that also includes impermanence and death, you know. So they read that quite a little bit, and she was thinking about it. And then my father got cancer, went very quick, cancer in the lungs. And then I think within, it was January, I just visited home in December, January, and passed away in August. So within a few months, it was very quick, you know. So then most of my aunts and uncles thought my mother, she goes in depression, because the relationship was quite good, you know. Of course, they had their issues, but generally speaking, it was a very good relationship, and always together, So then many people thought she goes in depression. But sadness was there, but she didn't really turn into a depression or something like that. And she said, okay, life goes on, right? And she became more social and things like that, and physically more active after. So that's very interesting. So the doctor was amazed, and many other people was amazed. So I asked my mother, how did you do that? And she said, I was reading about this for some time, and I was thinking about it, and I knew to a certain extent that this can happen. And that's kind of the benefit of contemplating death and impermanence, right? That you can deal with a loss of dear one, or you can deal when you yourself facing that kind of reality one day. Yeah. So that means that in Buddhism we often talk about to live in accordance with reality. Yeah. If you live in accordance with reality, then there's nothing surprising anymore, because those things can happen, right? So that's kind of an aspect, very important aspect of the training. Yeah. There's just a few basic points that you shouldn't fear a reality, because that reality will come one day, right, to you or to others, and the better you prepared, the more you can deal with it. Yeah, and that's same with old age, and that's same with leaving the body behind when it's time to leave the body behind. Yeah, that's a few general aspects, I think, for us to understand. And dying is not difficult; it just happens. Yeah, so you don't really have to worry about it too much, right? It just happens, basically. But in the Buddhist tradition, and I think in general, it's important to have a positive state of mind, yeah, when it happens. So then we're going to talk about those aspects. And all the aspects we're going to talk about is that death and impermanence is a very good motivator. If you contemplate the possibility of dying, then it motivates you. And you see that in the people who have experienced a near-death experience, that their life became much more positive after the near-death experience. That became more spiritual, they became more compassionate. Yeah. So that means that contemplating death and impermanence can become kind of something very positive. Yeah, and that's very clear in the science of the near-death experience. In the Buddhist tradition, we talk about already for many generations that if you contemplate death and impermanence, it motivates you to take the essence out of the opportunity we have right now. Yeah, the essence of your life, or make your life more meaningful, or take the value, have more value in your life, right? And we see the same aspect we see in the science of the near-death experience. That the majority of the people who have a near-death experience, their life changes in a very, very positive way. Yeah, so that's very interesting. So in the Buddhist context, we always say if you contemplate death and impermanence initially, then it helps you to enter the path, or the path to development, you could say, or the path to liberation and enlightenment. Yeah. And then when you keep contemplating death and impermanence, it makes your motivation pure, or it makes your Dharma practice pure, right? And then if you keep contemplating about death and impermanence, then also you accomplish the results. Because it's a motivator that you see, I have this incredible opportunity right now, I better use it before it's too late. That's kind of an aspect. And yeah, that comes also, and that's related with reincarnation. I don't know if that's a heavy topic for people or not. Who does not believe in reincarnation? Or is a bit kind of yes, no kind of thing. Online people? Yeah, people online, no opinion? Yeah. So yeah, because that also will come up today. Yeah, reincarnation exists or not, because that's an important aspect. In the near-death experience, people, they clinically dead when they're in the operation theater, or sometimes in some accident, right? And then they clinically dead at a particular time, and then that can be a few seconds or a few minutes. If it's too long, then of course, the longer the duration of the oxygen flow to the brain that stops, then the brain dies, right? So then there's no The brain doesn't have the right suitable kind of, properties to sustain consciousness anymore, right? But in many scientists who actually examine the near-death experience, they initially didn't believe it. Like Pim van Lommern, one of the most, I think, his research is being, I think, seen as the most profound one from the point of view of empirical science, right? Very well-designed research. He was a surgeon in a few hospitals in the Netherlands, and he saw this happening, that people are clinically dead, and they come back to life using CPR, whatever methods, and then they talk about what they experienced. But they couldn't have any experience because they were dead, according to medical science, right? So then he thought, this is not possible. This is not possible, according to medical science. And he saw it happening again and again and again. And then he designed the research and thought, let's put some time and effort into it and try to research it. Yeah, so his book, Beyond Consciousness, is a very interesting book on the most scientific version of if you're really into science, then that book is the best. There are also books on the near-death experience more accessible by Bruce Grayson, for example. Yeah, but Pim van Lommern, his book is very scientifically very well. It's just a kind of description of his research, right? So initially he didn't really believe that phenomena, that's possible, and he saw it happening again and again, so he thought, we have to research this. And then he designed the research and start analyzing it. So what happens there is that people see various things at the time of death. Yeah, the oxygen flow to the brain stops, the EEG goes flat, brain activity is not being measured and cannot be measured anymore. Yeah, it's a bit difficult to send them to an fMRI scan at that time. Yeah. But there's no measurable brain activity. Yeah, and that can be a few seconds, that can be a few minutes. But the persons often talk about what they saw, and it's not just random stories, because all they see the same pattern happening. And we come to that later today, because that's very much aligned with the different visions you have in the Buddhist scriptures, right? So what do people see when they die? Or what do we see when we die? Yeah, that's very interesting, you know. So people see, and that pattern, because many neuroscientists, they say, oxygen flow to the brain stops, this is the last firing of a few neurons, and people see all kinds of things. That's the general answer from neuroscience, right? But there's something more happening, right? That what people see, regardless of their culture, background, country they're born in or country they live in, people see the same patterns, right? So if people see the same patterns, then there is something universal. There is something that all people experience when we die, right? So that's very interesting, yeah? And we come to that later today, what actually happens, right? So then they come back to life and they can talk what they saw, right? Yeah, so they can talk about what they saw. But in certain conversations with the scientists examining the near-death experience, in particular in the field of accepting this aspect of consciousness at that time, then certain scientists, they say, okay, when they come back to life, they can talk about it. But if they do not come back to life, what happens then? That's very interesting, right? Because there is consciousness that has perception without a physical brain being active, right? So that's a very interesting aspect, yeah, from scientifically, yeah, that we are very interested in that as a Buddhist, or just in general, to have consciousness without brain activity is very interesting, yeah. So that's one aspect of the near-death experience, right? And there's other aspects of children remembering previous lifetimes and things like that. We come to that later. So there are aspects of reincarnation that we and there's many reasons that consciousness can only be produced by consciousness itself. We come to that later on. Yeah. So that means that we have to know the context of the talks today are also based on the principle of reincarnation, right? If you believe it or not, it doesn't matter. You have to examine it. If you believe it, then you shouldn't say, oh, I believe it. You have to understand why does it exist. If you don't believe it, then you should understand why it does not exist, right? So reincarnation either exists or it does not exist. So what are the reasons for it to exist? What are the reasons for it not to exist? That's kind of an open-minded approach. Yeah. So in Buddhism, we're very much into that, because we even say if science proves something that is the opposite of the Buddhist doctrine, then we can accept science. Yeah, that is Honis Dalai Lama very clear about that. You know. Yeah, but reincarnation is not really disproven yet. So, so we still, even many scientists agree upon that reincarnation is not really disproved yet, you know. So in that context, there are many reasons also, and many scientific findings that can establish or gives the evidence of rebirth, right? Anyway, we come to that later. So then we have to know that the talks today are also based on a bigger picture, yeah, not just one lifetime. Yeah? So many lifetimes before and many lifetimes coming. Because if you have that picture, then it's much easier, and you don't have to have this feeling of the unknown that, oh, what happens? Yeah, if you believe in reincarnation or you believe in going to heaven, you know. Yeah, the other day I was going somewhere and I was walking in Kennington Park, and I had to be on the other side. And I met a person who was Muslim, and I saw, because, you know, it's quite easy to recognize that I'm a Buddhist. So he asked me, can we talk? I said, sure, I have to go somewhere, but we can talk. So we walked all the way to Kennington Park and talked, and then stopped a little bit and kept going with our conversation. So he asked me, he said, in Buddhism, do you believe in reincarnation? I said, yes, yes. Do you also believe there is some God punishing you at the time of death? He asked me. I said, the question is, you know, if there's a God, or if it's the God within yourself, right? You could see that, right? That many religions and forms of faith, they have this aspect of something is deciding where you go when you're in that process. Yeah. So in Buddhism, we say it's the cause and effect of your habituation patterns, yeah, or what we call karma. Yeah, and in Christianity we say it's God, or in Islam we say it's God, and other Buddhist, or other Hindu traditions very similar. But the question is, who is this God, or what is this God? That's the question, right? So you can have your own faith or belief, and that's perfectly fine. Yeah. So then we talked about it a little bit, and he said, yeah, it's true, isn't it? If you didn't do well, we're born and to do good again. I said, yeah. He said, then I told him, maybe better start doing good this life. Yeah. then you keep doing good, right? Yeah. So many forms of faith or religion, they always think there is something happening after, right? That's quite clear. Yeah. And then the science behind it is also quite clear. So that means there is something happening after we die. Yeah. And what happens, we're going to talk about a little bit later on. But first, let's look at to get used to the idea that we are going to die. Because if you get used to the idea that we are going to die, then you prepare yourself. Yeah. So let's first talk about it in this session, next session, and yeah, the first two sessions maybe we spent on that, and then one session we spent on seeing the need for the development of the mind, right? And then the last session today in the afternoon, we're going to talk about what actually happens. What do you see when you die? Yeah, what is the process of the dying process? And then we can look at the Buddhist interpretations of the various scriptures, as well as what we see in the evidence in the near-death experience, right? And how that correlate with each other. It's very interesting. Yeah. So yeah, let's first see that we have to get used to the idea that we are going to die. Yes, because if you understand that, the fear for death will disappear, because you understand that reality, and then also you know how to use this life in the best way. Yeah. So okay. So let's look first at the aspect of death, in the sense that in Buddhism, and you can use it as a secular way. You don't have to be Buddhist use those methods, right? So Buddhism also, for those who are quite new to Buddhism, I have to make very clear that Buddhism you can subdivide into a threefold division. Yeah. So, and that threefold division of Buddhism has secular aspects or universal aspects, and has the Buddhist practice, so to say. So what are those three? The first one is Buddhist mind science, or you could say Buddhist psychology. Yeah, so Buddhist mind science and psychology is examining the states of mind and what are the causes for suffering and what are the causes for happiness and how can I transform my mind to achieve more happiness, right? Yeah, so that's kind of, if you're a believer or not, it's just the science of the mind. It's mind science, right? So that's kind of a knowledge we have in Buddhism we can share with other people who are not religious or whatsoever. And we do that. Yeah, I give some talks in the corporate world sometimes for Google and other organizations. And I'm connected with Oxford. I do some things like summer school in Oxford University, where I teach this kind of mind science aspects with this kind of a secular aspect of Buddhism is just try to understand our minds, right? So that's of a secular nature, yeah, Buddhist mind science or psychology. The second aspect of Buddhism is also of a secular, or can be seen as a secular nature, and that is philosophy. Yeah, the philosophy of Buddhism can also be studied and examined if you're a believer or not, right? It's just, what is the reality? Be interested in what is the reality. Yeah, so that's kind of even recent talks in Google and Dumbhumby, another software company. At the end of the talks, there were a question. I was really surprised. One was one man and one in Google, and a female woman in Kazakh. In Dumbhumby asked the question, what is ultimate reality according to Buddhism? I thought, wow, that's quite an interesting question for people in the office in Google, right? Yeah. But anyway, so that's a very important aspect of Buddhism as well, yeah, the philosophy. Yeah, so we have two secular aspects in Buddhism, mind science and psychology, you could say, and philosophy, right? And then the third aspect of Buddhism is the Buddhist practice. Yeah, for those who are really interested in Buddhism, they can decide to engage more in the Buddhist practice. Yeah, and that's also there. And with a threefold division, it's very clever. That's on the advice of His Holiness Dalai Lama. It's very clever because then the first two aspects of mind science and philosophy, you can use in a wider public, with a wider kind of audience, yeah, a believer or non-believer. And you can help people benefiting their minds, yeah, or the education of the mind, so to say. Well, you don't water down the third topic of the Buddhist practice. You can keep that traditional for those who are really inclined in that tradition. Yeah, so then you keep Buddhism or the practice, so to say, pure. So that's a very clever division. Yeah. So here in Jamyang, we have a similar kind of aspect that we have various programs. We have like a 5.5-year program. We just finished a 3-year program, and we have 1.5-year programs for the Buddhists' more in-depth understanding of Buddhism. And we also have kind of intro weekends and talks, and like today, for example. And also we engage in dialogues with scientists. Yeah, and then when we engage in dialogues with scientists on the field of the first 2 points, right, the Buddhist mind science and neuroscience, we did a dialogue with Anil Seth, for example, one of the world leading neuroscientists, and we're developing a course at the moment regarding what is consciousness, yeah, from the Buddhist perspective as well as from the perspective of science. And also with philosophy, we engage in dialogues with persons like Carlo Rovelli, yeah, one world famous physicist in the field of quantum mechanics, particular quantum gravity. And now in November 23rd, we have a dialogue with a German philosopher called Thomas Metzinger. Yeah, so Thomas Metzinger is a very interesting personality who actually proves a thing we have in Buddhist philosophy that we call there is no self. Yeah, and then he proves with empirical science in collaboration with MIT. It's very interesting. Yeah, so we're going to have a dialogue about the reality and consciousness, as well as secular spirituality. Yeah, because that's also some of his main things in his life. And that we have in Jamyang under the umbrella of Science and Wisdom Life. Yeah, that's a project of Jamyang, Science and Wisdom Life, that we also engage in dialogues with scientists to try to understand what is consciousness and try to understand what is reality. Yeah, so from the Buddhist perspective as well as from the scientific perspective, and see if there's common ground and, you know, what are the differences and why are the differences there. Yeah, okay, so then you know, for those who are new, that Buddhism can be studied and examined from secular perspectives or universal perspectives when it comes to mind science and philosophy, right? And for those who are really interested, including this person sitting in front of yourself, who are really at a certain time interested in the Buddhist practice, then there's the opportunity as well, yeah, because I was like anybody else on the planet, studied hydrology and raving all night long in Rotterdam for a few years. Yeah, not every day or only in the one night a week. Yeah, not every day. Yeah, so one night a week or something. Yeah, for a few years, and then I lost interest. Yeah, so then I went into, what is it, spiritual path or whatever you'd like to call it. So then instead of going to parties and having relationships, and then I lost all interest, and then decided to study Chinese medicine in the weekends next to my hydrology studies during the week, and then that moved into Buddhism. Yeah, and then soon after that I decided to change my dress and live in a big monastic university in South India to study. Yeah, for about 2 decades. Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, so that's important to know, that there are 3 aspects to Buddhism, right? 2 of secular nature, mind science and philosophy, and the Buddhist practice for those who really like to engage deeper into the practice. And then that way also you keep that tradition pure, because that's important. Because as we know in the West, there's a lot of kind of new agey stuff going on around everywhere, and people take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, leave out that, and then mix it all together, and then they say, oh, it doesn't work anymore. Yeah. So that's why it's important to make things clear. Yeah. So that's why in Buddhism we have that clear distinction. So let's have a look then at the motivation and why is it good to recognize that the time of death is going to happen. Yeah. Because if you prepare yourself, including the example of my mother, then you know that if you know it's going to happen, the fear will go, right? Yeah, so that's a very important aspect. And not only the fear will go, but also you know how to use this life in a better way. Yeah, so that's 2 very important aspects. Yeah. So how do we do that? So first of all, we have to contemplate that death is definite, that is going to happen. Yeah, that's one meditation. And why is it going to happen? Because basically we cannot escape the dying process. We cannot escape death. When it's time to die, whatever medication you take, whatever doctor you depend upon, at the time of death, when the time of death is near, they cannot stop it anymore, right? Yeah, then they say, yeah, there's not much time left, or you have only a few weeks, or we cannot do anything anymore, right? So you know that there's no escape. There's no place you can go to. There's no medicine you can take. There's no doctor you can depend upon. It's just going to happen, right? So that's one aspect of the meditation or contemplation, so to say, that we know the time of death is certain. Yeah. So yeah, why is it certain? First point is because there's no escape, no doctor, no medicine. Of course, when you're sick, you have to go to depend on medicine. Don't come out of this class, go back home and say, oh, Namdak told us when the time of death is coming, then it's coming, so I don't take medicine anymore. That's not very wise, right? You take medication, but at the time when death is close, then it doesn't help anymore, right? So that's kind of what we have to understand, that that's going to happen. Yeah. So that's the first reason. The second reason is that, death is getting closer rather than going away, further away. We always have our birthday celebrations, and actually what we don't celebrate that, but the reality is that you're a year closer to death. That's the reality, right? You can put as many candles as you like, but the reality is that you're getting closer to death. So the more candles you have, you know, it's getting closer, right? Yeah. So that's a reality, you know, that every year, every month, every hour, every minute, every second, every split second is actually close to that. Yeah, we started about an hour ago, and we're already an hour closer to that. Yeah, that's a reality, right? That we cannot prevent that reality. That's time moves forward, right? Yeah, so the arrow of time moves forward. So that means that we, you know, the time you're born. If you look back to that quote we started with today, of the Sutra of the 10th Ground, then it says that, you know, old age and death are produced by the condition of birth, right? So that means if you're born, every step you take, you know, you're actually getting closer. That's a reality, right? Yeah. So that's a reality. Yeah. Yeah. So that is definite, right? And why? Because you cannot escape it, right? And it's getting closer rather than going further away. Yeah, there's two reasons, you know. But also, it's like what we often say, the Lord of Death doesn't wait till you finish a particular project or in your life. Yeah, that doesn't mean there's a person standing there and waiting for you to die or something. No, it's a symbolic meaning, right? That the time of death is not going to wait until you finish a particular event in your life or project or things you're working on, right? Yeah. One of my friends, her mother just passed away in a conversation, you know, just collapsed and passed away, you know. So that means that is not going to wait till you finish something, yeah. So that's also an important aspect to understand, yeah. So the purpose of these contemplations, and that's important to know. In Buddhism, we always want to know why I'm doing this. What is the reason for me to think about this? You know, so that's very important to understand. Yeah, so the first thing, as we're going to do short meditation together, just analyzing, yeah, and kind of analytical meditation, that is to understand that we do this meditation to motivate ourselves. Because if you know you're going to die, you not only prepare yourself, and you know it's going to happen, so that takes away the fear, but also it motivates us to take the essence out of this life. Right? So that's why we do this meditation. Yeah? It's not just to generate fear, you know, that's a kind of unconstructive fear is not very good, right? So we need to have a constructive mind and understand, okay, this is a reality, I'm going to face this reality, so if that's the case, I better use this life in a good way. That's the purpose, right? That's very important to understand. Yeah, so in Buddhism we talk a lot about death and impermanence and suffering, so much, and then people think, oh, those Buddhists, they must be so depressed because they always talk about death, impermanence, and suffering. But actually, if you understand that reality, you can deal with it much better, and then it gives more peace of mind. You know, same example with my mother. Then it prevents her from going into depression, if you understand this reality, right? Yeah, so that's kind of what we try to get at, to play around with this reality and to get used to that reality. Yeah, so that's very important. Yeah, that every step you take, or you can have a clock with split seconds. You know when you can see, it goes so fast. You know, if you have seconds, you know you can still follow, but if you have a tenth of a second, 100th of a second, 1000th of a second, the digits, they go so fast you can hardly see it goes, right? Yeah. So if you have a counter like that and you put it in front of yourself and you say, okay, I'm 50 something now, and then you put, okay, let's become 80, and then you put 40 something years in there, and then you do the countdown. yeah. And then you put it in front of yourself, and then you just contemplate. Wow, it's getting closer. Yeah, that gives us a lively experience that is going to happen, right? Yeah, and if you have that kind of understanding, then you know it's going to happen, and also you know, oh, I better use this life as I still have it. So that's kind of what we try to accomplish, to take the essence out of our life and to use it in a good way. So for that purpose, we contemplate death and impermanence. Yeah. So that's same as this first meditation. Yeah. So let's do a short meditation, and before we do that, maybe some of you are quite new to meditation. I'm not sure, but I think most of you have done meditations before. Yeah. So we have various types of meditations. Yeah. We have kind of awareness or concentration meditation and analytical meditation. Yeah. So first, in this first session, maybe let's do it in a way that we do first a kind of awareness of the breath meditation. Yeah. To have a calm mind, because that's also very important. When you die, it's very important to be relaxed. Yeah. So that's an important aspect. And another aspect is to, over time, develop some concentration. Yeah, that's also important. To keep your mind focused on something you want to focus upon. Yeah, so for that purpose, first we do awareness of the breath. And you can sit like you sit normally, or you sit in a chair. The main important aspect is that the spine is straight. Yeah, that's very important. Yeah, that the spine is straight and the head is slightly bent forward. That the crown of your head is one line with your spine, right? That's very important. Yeah. Then in this tradition, we mostly put the right on top of the left. Yeah. But either way, not really don't have to force yourself in a kind of position. You can just sit. Doesn't matter for this kind of meditation, right? And then your eyes are just about to be closed. Yeah, not completely. If it's completely dark, then it can cause some dullness. If your eyes are open, you get distracted by the things you see. Yeah, so we close them in the sense that just a little bit light goes inside, but you can't see anything. Yeah, that's in the beginning not too. It's not not easy, but if that's too difficult, then just close them. Right. Yeah. And then we breathe always to the nose, right, to the nostrils, and then the mouth is closed, and the tongue is just behind the upper teeth. Yeah, not forced. But that prevents the mouth from getting dry or producing too much liquid. Yeah, yeah. So if we sit like that, then for the first moment we just observe the breath. Yeah, and then the second part of the meditation we analyze that we're going to die, in the sense there is no escape, right? And that not only is there no escape, time is getting closer, the time of death, rather than further away, and yeah. That is not going to wait until we finish. Yeah, aspect. So then we get an understanding that's going to happen one day, right? Yeah. Okay. So first, then mere the awareness of the breath. So, meaning, just be aware of the movement of the air in your nostrils, or the movement of your chest, or a combination of those two, right? Just observe the breathing process for about, let's say a minute or so, yeah. Yeah, so then when the mind is settled down a bit, then try to analyze the things we just discussed, See if it's true that that is definite. It's really going to happen or not. Yeah, so the first reason, try to see if is there actually an escape when the time really is there. Do doctors and medications still work? Or can you go to another place when there's no death? Is there an escape of death or not when the time comes? Yeah, so analyze that for yourself if that's true or not. For about half a minute or so. And then try to see that it's true, There's nothing that can stop the process. Aging is happening, right? And then when the time of death comes, you cannot escape it, go to a place or ask a doctor to stop it, When it's time, So come to that conclusion that there's no escape, anymore when it's the time. Yeah, so come to that kind of conclusion and focus on that conclusion and seeing that is definitely going to happen, right? Yeah, and focus on that conclusion for about half a minute or so. And not only, can we not escape it, but is death going further away or getting closer? If you're born, then is death going further away or getting closer? Every step you take, every hour, every minute, every second, what's happening? Yeah, so analyze it for yourself, if it's getting closer or not. So try to analyze that also for about half a minute. And also here have a conclusion that's true. Every step you take, every hour, minute, is actually getting closer, right? It's kind of a countdown. Yeah, so come to that conclusion and see that it's coming closer rather than going further away, right? Yeah, so come to that conclusion and then focus on that conclusion for about half a minute. And then try to see that if that is waiting for you to finish something or not. If you're in the middle of a project, or want to go still on a holiday, or want to do different other things in your life, when it's time of that, is then the time of that waiting for you to finish those things or not? Yeah, so analyze that also for about half a minute or so. So also here see that is not going to wait till you finish something, right? When it's time, that's the reality. Yeah, so come to that conclusion and also focus on that conclusion for about half a minute. And then to conclude, come to an overall conclusion, right? See that it's true, that is definite. Why? Because you cannot escape it. It's getting closer rather than going further away, and it's not going to wait till you finish a particular thing in life. When it's time, right? So come to that overall conclusion and then focus on that is definitely going to happen. Yeah, so focus on that conclusion for about, also half a minute or so. Yeah, so then we can stop. So what I said before, it's important first to understand why do I do this meditation, right? So the motivation behind this kind of meditation is to start to understand that it's going to happen. And with that understanding, to use the life we have, right? To use it in a good way, to waste it. Then the next question is, how do you meditate? And how do you meditate? In this point we said with it, there's an aspect of time that is definite, and there are 3 reasons, as we went over, right? That you cannot escape it, it's getting closer, and it's not going to wait. Yeah, so there are the reasons to see that is definite. And then it's important to check what did this produce. Yeah, if you do these contemplations and you get very depressed or you get very down, then the meditation is not done properly, because it should bring a very constructive mind that says, okay, look, I'm going to die. That's going to happen. I better use this life in a good way. Yeah, so that's kind of an aspect important to reach that conclusion, and that you can later on in the Buddhists, those who are already into Buddhism for some time, they know you can combine it with the precious human rebirth or with Buddha potential. Yeah, with the death meditation, sometimes the mind goes a little bit kind of, oops, I'm going to die. The mind gets a bit kind of I won't say down, but I won't say you jumping up and down over happiness, right? That's not going to happen when you're meditating on death and impermanence. Yeah, the mind goes a bit like, ooh, I'm going to die. Yeah. So then sometimes you can use, when the mind goes too deep into that aspect, then you can uplift it with seeing that you have an incredible potential, right? As humans, we have an incredible potential. Yeah. So from a secular aspect, people really into pumping some muscles here and there, and you know, and sports and things like that. It's good, but the kasa for exercise is good, but the records of the Olympics is every year just a little bit. They jump a few millimeters, or maybe half a millimeter or something like that, or they run and then it's just a split second faster than 4 years ago. But there's almost no difference, right? Because the body is very limited in its capacity. Well, the mind is beyond limitations, right? So that's important to know. Yeah, there's a lot of research done with what we call the Olympic meditators. Yeah, there's a very interesting term from Richard Davidson and Daniel Goleman, yeah, who did a lot of research with people with a lot of meditation done in their life, and it's very interesting. They produce gamma waves they never measured before in the human brain. It's very interesting. Yeah, so what does that mean? This high production or this high score in gamma waves is that you don't grasp at aspects anymore. You can let go. Yeah, when there are difficulties in life, you know, there's still emotions, but you don't get influenced by them in a negative way. It just comes and goes. It's like if you write something in a stream, water, you know, you write something, then straight away it goes, right? It doesn't really stay. So that's kind of that disturbing emotions, they come up, but you let go. They don't disturb you, right? So that seems to be indicating this core and high gamma waves. Yeah? For most of us, our emotions are written in stone. Yeah? Our disturbing emotions are like in stone, carved in stone. They stay with us for a long time, right? So that's kind of something not very constructive. Yeah? So by the power of training your mind, you can let go and you can actually have a much more peaceful and happy mind. Yeah? So that goes all the way up to liberation and enlightenment. Can you imagine having a mind without anger? Having a mind without obsessive desire? You think it's possible or not? Those who are Buddhists, they all say, yeah, yes. But those who are not Buddhist or who are just new to this material, that's a very interesting question, right? Can we eliminate disturbing emotions? That's a very interesting question. Yeah? Because that's why we basically here. You know, it is possible to eliminate disturbing emotions to the extent that they don't come up anymore. Yeah, so that's definitely true. Why is that so? Because disturbing emotions, you know, they're not a part of our innate nature of the mind. Yeah, they like clouds in the sky. The blue sky always remains the blue sky. Yeah, the clouds are just temporarily obscuring the blue sky, right? Yeah, but they're not a part of the blue sky. So that our mind, in its most subtle form, or its ultimate nature, if you want to call it in that way, is free of stains, is free of afflictions, right? So that's a sign that we can eliminate those disturbing afflictions, because the clouds, when they're not there, the blue sky remains. If you're inside the blue sky, then the clouds don't obstruct your view of the blue sky anymore, right? Yeah, so that's a very clear sign. So if you're in your mind, in this subtle state of mind, then these things don't disturb you anymore, right? Yeah. And then that's one reason. Another reason is that the disturbing emotions, you know, they come and go by power of cause and conditions, right? You might wake up with a pleasant dream and you wake up at la, brushing your teeth and you're quite, you know, happy in the morning, and then you get an annoying message of this person and then you're completely changed. Yeah, so you see that disturbance of irritation or anger is triggered by a condition, right? Yeah, so that means if you play with cause and conditions, you can actually transform your mind. Yeah, that's very clear. We come to that later today. That's very important to transform the mind. Yeah, when we still have the opportunity. Yeah, Because it is possible to change, and not only in science, in neuroplasticity, is very clear science behind the change of the brain. So if you can change your brain, you can for sure change your attitude, right? Yeah, that's very clear. Yeah. So that means that change is possible because disturbing emotions and the mind in general depends on cause and conditions, right? Yeah. And then the third reason is that these disturbances of mind, or afflictions as we call them, they're not in accordance with reality. And those disturbing emotions that are not in accordance with reality causes problems. Same with the fear for death, right? But if you work on that and you understand reality, then these disturbing emotions do not influence you anymore, right? So that's kind of a very important aspect, that these disturbing emotions, they don't have to be there all the time. Yeah? So they can be taken away and they can be transformed. You can transform your mind in order to eliminate disturbing emotions. Yeah? So that's a very important aspect, because as we're going to die, and we're not dead yet, right? So then we say we're gonna take this opportunity of this life to work on ourselves and to transform our disturbance and into more constructive ways. And then there's more achievement of temporary and eventually ultimate happiness, right? So that's the whole Buddhist principle behind these meditations. Yeah? It's not just to understand the death process, which is interesting, but to motivate ourselves for our life and to do something with our lives. You know, that's very important. Yeah, and then to use that as a training. Yeah, okay. So let's have a break. Yeah, because relaxation is also very important. Yeah, yeah. So let's have a break until 12 o'clock. Yeah, UK time. Yeah. And then you have people at home can have their own, like, of tea, coffee, whatever you have, and a biscuit or something on the side. Yeah. So also here you can have something to drink, and then we come back at 12 o'clock. Yeah? Okay. So then we always just, mostly we dedicate quietly, or not quietly, but yeah, if we generate the correct motivation before we start something, and then we do a little prayer in the end, you know, to dedicate, we could say, or to direct the good intentions we have discussed, that, you know. Yeah, so then I just recite something. Those who know can recite along, and otherwise you just think that may this cause you to develop your mind and achieve more happiness, and with that to help others to achieve the same. Yeah, you could think like that. Yeah. Chancho semjo rinpoche magye panam gigi gyebai namba meba yang gone kondo belwa sho toni tawa rinpoche magye panam gigi chik gyebai namba meba yang gone kondo belwa sho. Yeah, enjoy your break.